Hey everyone, today we have Lauriann Greene on the show, and she is a textbook author. So we're going to talk a little bit about saving your hands and ergonomics and things like that. But Lauriann, I wanted to invite you on the show because this is such a common topic, how to save your hands, our best tools. And of course,
Yes.
we're the same.
Yes. Actually, I always say that the book is called Save Your Hands because it's a catchy title. But it's save your hands, your back, your neck, your emotional well-being. It's really all of those things.
I love that. I personally have had my fair share of issues as well. As you know, I have EDS, and this was at the last massage convention I went to. They wrapped my hands up. It wasn't tight. It was really superficial and it felt great. And I thought I kind of looked a little bit like I don't know, some Marvel character or something.
It is cool looking.
Yeah, my hands were aching so bad at this convention. I think it was the AMTA or something in Dallas, and I was with an essential oil company helping them do chair massage. And yeah, my hands were pretty sore by the end of it.
Yeah.
So that's what they did for me.
Well, it goes with your tattoos.
I wanted to show people as well your website, the screenshot from your website, because your book is also going to be a course soon. I know you're working on finalizing and developing everything. It's a huge process writing a textbook. I definitely have not gone through that. I'm sure that's a whole other podcast episode.
So let's say it took a year.
It only took a year because this is your third edition, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you already.
Exactly. The second edition took 2 years. So, and that was 17 years ago. Yes, it would have taken much longer than a year if if I didn't already have the second edition.
Yes, and the fourth edition, as we progress as therapists, will only take 6 months.
I hope so. That would be nice.
So I wanted to pull up your post on Facebook and read it for people because I thought it was such a great way to give people an overview of what to expect as we dive into this topic. So yeah, this is the post that came up, and I thought it encompassed everything pretty well.
Yeah, I tried to make it that way. So we'll see. So after having a number of conversations recently with manual therapists, about work-related pain and injury, I realized that there is a common misconception that changing just one aspect of how you work will prevent you from getting injured. I think it's important to point out that we need to change the way we think of work-related injury and realize we must have many strategies to be able to stay healthy as therapists. Few things in life are simple enough to fix by doing just one thing differently. For example, if you just improve your body mechanics, you'll be fine. Research and injury statistics show that, unfortunately, this is not true. Injury happens as a result of a number of factors, so we call it multifactorial. And that's the reason that 3 out of 4 massage therapists, according to proven statistics, get injured during their careers. It's also the reason that these injuries are difficult to treat and recover from. Yes, it's true that some people work for 20 or 30 years without having a problem, and that's great. But the average length of a career in massage is 5 years, according to the AMTA. And that's why I wrote Save Your Hands as a complete guide to injury prevention and ergonomics, so therapists can understand the many factors that can lead to injury and provide many strategies to help prevent it. I believe that if therapists were more knowledgeable about the multifactorial nature of work-related injury, instead of thinking one just has to do this or that to prevent it, we might be able to lower the number of therapists who become injured and increase the average length of a massage career. That's my goal for Save Your Hands 3rd edition and the other work I do to help manual therapists stay healthy in the career they love.
I think that encompassed it pretty well. And I tell my clients, self-care is a full-time job, and we can't just dip our hands in paraffin wax at the end of the day and think that's gonna solve everything. It does feel great, and I do that pretty often. Good. There's more to it than that in K-taping, and I myself still have a lot to learn on how to take care of myself being a hypermobile person, because you're right, there's so many different contributing factors on everything. And of course, me having a connective tissue disorder and being 5 foot tall and 100 pounds, I can't be compared to somebody who CrossFit 5 times a week. week, it's unreasonable to expect that their body mechanics.
Well, something that I do talk about quite extensively in the book is that it's taking all of those things into consideration, because we aren't all alike. And our physical makeup, our emotional makeup, any specific issues we have, if we already come into the career with some kind of injury or a previous injury, all of these things have to be taken into account. And we need to just have awareness of all of these things. And the awareness starts at the beginning, of course. You have to make sort of a plan. Well, okay, yeah, I'm 100 pounds, I'm 5 feet tall, I've got this disorder. So what's my plan for how I'm going to deal with that? And then the awareness needs to continue, and it needs to be pretty constant. It can't be that we were thinking about when we first got up. We were thinking, boy, I had a really terrible sleep last night. And then we get into the clinic or wherever you're doing massage, and it's all about the client. We forget ourselves completely, and we just do whatever the client says. We have to continue to check in with ourselves. This is actually possible. How is this possible? But it is possible to retain an awareness of yourself, your own emotions, your own body, while you are also treating the client. You don't have to give everything over to the client. Nobody expects that. It's not reasonable to expect. It would be unhealthy. Like in a relationship, you always have to be taking care of yourself at the same time that you're giving to someone else. You can't just let somebody drain you dry. Right? In the third edition, I talk a lot about that, about developing the ability to be aware. For example, if you realize, because you're aware, that at a certain point in the massage, you're feeling kind of tense, either emotionally tense and or physically tense, to figure out a way to maybe while you're turning around and getting some more oil, to take a couple of deep cleansing breaths to allow you to dispel some of that tension. You could even get the client to breathe with you. It's always good to get the client breathing, because they themselves, not everybody is all that comfortable every moment of a massage. Maybe they need a little bit of de-stressing. Taking some good deep breaths together might be really helpful for the client and helpful for you. So if it gets, because that tension builds up. If we don't do something about it, it just continues to build during the massage, and it causes what we call static tension or static loading, where it cuts off blood flow to not completely. It reduces blood flow to the body, and that makes us more prone to injuries. You need to be fluid, allowing yourself to have moments where you need something during the massage, and figure out what those are. I mean, there's many different ways that you can do that. I mean, some people have a water bottle with lemon slices in it that they just mist their face with it, and it refreshes them. It takes 2 seconds. So you're not taking time away from your client. They're not going to notice 2-3 minutes that, you took for yourself during the massage. And, you'll give them better service in any case if you're not wearing your shoulders as earrings as the massage is going on, because the quality of your touch isn't going to be the same. So I'm a big one on awareness.
Funny you say that shoulders is earrings thing, because I'll tell my clients that have pierced ears, just wear long earrings, because when you wear your shoulders as earrings, you'll feel them and it'll remind you to put them back down.
That's a good idea. So yeah, that's a new feature of the book, is awareness, and developing awareness, and developing some coping skills and some relaxation skills, and just knowing where you're at stock before you start working. So, because every day is different, right?
Yeah.
One day you didn't sleep well, the next day you had a fight with your partner, or you're just not feeling that well.
A days and B days. So
Yeah.
having an A day, I can walk a mile with my dog. Well, maybe not in Texas in this heat, but I can walk longer with my dog. While a B day, I might only have enough mental and physical energy to kick the ball a couple of times.
Right.
my eating, do I have enough energy to meal prep today, or should I just heat up something from the freezer or order DoorDash? All of that takes mental energy. And whenever I'm having an A day, I can handle giving what clients perceive to be a deep tissue massage. On a B day, I might only have enough physical energy to only do barefoot or cupping or some energy work or sound bowl, something light. So I do honor my body as well. I think that's really important. But
Absolutely.
what about those clients that are notorious for saying, you can't hurt me, you can go deep?
Go deeper.
Favorite responses to those types of?
I'm all for gently teaching people without sounding like a teacher, that it isn't always a lot of pressure that is the best way to deal with a particular problem. Sometimes it can backfire. You put too much pressure and then you get muscle guarding. Then it's even harder, and then you have to give even more pressure. So to let them know, especially clients who see you more than once, who are regular clients, to kind of get them used to the idea that there are many beneficial ways to work, to do body work that can help whatever their issues are. There isn't just, as I was saying before, like there's just one thing you do to prevent injury. There's so many massage modalities, especially these days. There's so much more than when I went to massage school, and or even when I wrote the second edition of the book. So there's so many ways that you can help people, and some of them are very light techniques. So, or if they really insist, you can say, I'm just not comfortable doing that much pressure. That's not my style of massage.
In the future, I can bookmark some, but we can go over a few of those comments from those threads of how to respond to clients and number those out, because I've seen some good ones. I'm snarky. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not going to actually say this to a client, but I respond with, no amount of deep pressure is going to get rid of the deep rooted resentment you have towards your father.
They're right.
But usually I'll respond with something I'm at my threshold, or if they, at the beginning of the appointment, if you do a proper consult, then I don't think you really need to ask about pressure, because
Yes, intake is really important. They're coming to you, right? You can only be you. And, maybe it'll turn out that they won't be the right client for you. Not everybody is. And we can't be so worried about, losing any client that we're willing to hurt ourselves to do what the client wants. And the client doesn't always, I'd say a lot of times, they don't know what they want, and they don't know what would really fix them. It's just that deep tissue is kind of I hate to say it's a fad. It's just that's what people hear about. That's what people know about. And
catch all phrase.
Because they feel like if it's not deep tissue, that somehow they're not getting a real massage or something. We need to educate our clients and be clear about boundaries. I mean, boundaries are really, really, really important. It's another one of those strategies that keeps you from getting injured, is having those boundaries. It's also good to say, well, I've reached my limit, but why don't we try this? So that they're not left with, that you give them a substitution. I think if we try this, I think you may really enjoy it, or you may really find that it helps.
That's one reason why I charge all-inclusive pricing, is because I've learned over the 15 years of me being a therapist, a baby therapist, compared to a lot of people who made it past.
15 years is respectable amount of time.
Thank you. But I'll straight up tell clients, there's over 300 styles of massage, if not more, out there. You don't know them all, but many of them are what would be considered deep tissue. However, it's not what you think it is. Deep tissue and deep tissue is not exactly the same, but I use a variety of different techniques and modalities during the service. And I also make sure, now that I have your verbal consent, that deeper is fine, that your nervous system also is on board. And then we work together. And then I use the You got to marinate a piece of meat before throwing it on the grill metaphor for the guys. It seems to click for them. Talk about football, beer, food.
Yeah, absolutely. I think being upfront about that, and maybe not everybody's comfortable talking about that, maybe have as part of the intake form, have them have a paragraph that says that so that it's clear when you start.
There's charts of 1 to 10, various pictures of people screaming.
Right. Right. You sure you want deep massage? Because you may be one of those screaming faces. So, yeah, a lot of people, they don't really know what that means.
You were so right about educating our clients as well. And in my case, it's slightly different because I'm at a hotel spa. I'm not seeing private clients at the moment. So they're not coming in to be fix-it work. So I don't have to worry about that. But I do make sure if they tell me they have an issue, I say, did you want to do what we do best here today? Or did you want to save that for your therapist? Is that your goal for it today? Did you want me to work on that? You have to set the standard and set the tone too. And I think that's really important. So clients aren't disappointed and you talk, because the clients that I see, they don't really necessarily want to be educated, but they'll buy a travel size pain relief gel at the front desk when they leave because I told them I felt some inflammation and used the product on them at the spa and they loved it.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways when it comes to self-care. And for me, maybe you have some feedback about this, but I know diet is really, really important as well. I'm sure that's in your textbook. And
yes, we talk about diet quite a bit. Anti-inflammatory diets.
So I have trouble with staying hydrated, especially being here in Texas. And I feel myself in a conundrum because I don't want to have to go to the bathroom every hour.
Yeah.
But I know I need to stay hydrated.
Yeah, I think you just need to, get one of those really big water bottles, just keep it around and just be taking sips of it all the time. I think it's probably better hydrated if you're taking frequent sips than if you're waiting till the end of each session and then glug, glug, glug. So because you stay hydrated as you're going along. So yeah, you just need to keep a big amount of water.
What are some of the top 2 or 3 main complaints you see from therapists? I know that's kind of a loaded question because your entire book covers all of that, of course, but from the online forums and stuff.
Well, and from the study that my co-author on the second edition, Rick Goggins, who's an ergonomist, he and I did the first statistical study of the prevalence of musculoskeletal injuries, sorry, it's a mouthful, among massage therapists, because there were no statistics before that. That was in 2006, and we did that with the ABMP. I know what that showed as well. I know a lot of people talk about carpal tunnel syndrome. That is not one of the major things that major disorders that people reported. It's more different types of tendinosis. We don't talk about tendinitis so much anymore unless it's a traumatic kind of thing, all on your hand. I broke my foot last year and there was a lot of inflammation because it was traumatic. But the type of things that therapists get are usually slow onset. So it's usually a tendinosis, the forearm flexors, the ulnar and radial tendons of the forearm flexors. It's neck pain because, and I do talk about this in the book. The head weighs about 12 pounds. It's like a bowling ball. Especially people who are just starting out, they tend to look down at their clients the whole time. They don't sort of trust their palpation skills enough to not be looking down. Sorry?
Then they start looking at the clock.
Right. Don't look at the clock either. Well, you have to a little bit, but they're in this position all the time. And so they do get upper traps, splenius capitis, all of those muscles get overworked. So there's neck injury as well.
With my clients too, when I tell them to bend down and touch their toes, they'll bend down and some can, some can't, whatever, but they'll do the stretch and then they keep their neck up like that instead of I have to tell everybody look down and teach them how to do the opposite of their muscle memory, and they just
Right.
so ingrained in us. We don't even think about it. It's like breathing.
Yeah, this forward head posture, especially people working at computers and people working
Back to
arms
double
in front
chin.
of them as therapists. The forward head posture, again, the head is very, very heavy. Then you're straining your scalenes, you're stretching out your upper traps, and they're going to get weak, and weakness sets the stage for injury. I would say it's those forearm tendinopathy, it's thumb CMC joint problems because the thumb is so movable and so unstable. And people tend to, especially when they're first starting out, they tend to use their thumbs for everything. There's also the reason they use their thumbs for everything. I think one of the reasons, I can't know all the reasons, is that there's too much of an emphasis, and I think this comes from training from schools. There's too much of an emphasis on what they call treatment massage, meaning getting into small areas where people have a locus of pain, trigger points, and using the thumbs for that, especially trigger point work. They'll stick their thumb on it and put a pressure on. First of all, trigger point, you shouldn't use that much pressure with trigger point therapy. But again, people who are starting out, they may not realize. And they get into, you were mentioning a photo that I put up on Facebook of somebody working with the client prone and coming from the top, working downward and pressing into the muscle belly in the center of the foot with their thumbs with a lot of pressure and with the rest of the hands deviated. So first of all, why do it in prone when you can sit at the end of the table and do it in supine position where you're in a much more comfortable position for your body? And second of all, that way you can use your fists, you can use your elbows. It just gives you're more comfortable, you're seated, and you should be seated about a quarter of the time that you're working because your body needs a break. So certainly the lower body, there are things like the feet that you can do, or the hands or the arms that you can do seated on a rolling stool. So this photo looked so awkward to me. It put me in pain just looking at it.
Screen when I edit it.
Okay. I asked people, what do you think of this position? There's just everything wrong with this position. It's so unnecessary. There's so many ways of working. Make it easy on yourself. Don't make it hard on yourself. And certainly, again, the thumbs are so mobile. And when the thumbs are used, they should be used in line with the rest of your arm, because that gives them support. If they're off by themselves, they're wiggling around. When you put pressure on them, they're wiggling around. And certainly if you deviate your hands at the same time, you're really putting a huge amount of pressure on your CMC joint. So, and those wear out, and people get de Quervains and just thumb tendinosis, sorry. And that's a big change in the third edition. I had to change tendinitis to tendinosis because there's recent research says there's no such thing as tendinitis. It's all tendinosis, because tendinitis implies inflammation. But when they do sections of people who in places where people say that they are in pain, and they usually would have called it tendinitis, they don't find any inflammation, because itis means inflammation. What they do find is an erosion of the word is eluding me, of the collagen fibers that make up the tendon. And so they are now calling it tendinosis instead of tendinitis, because the itis part is misleading. Because in most of these kinds of disorders that massage therapists get, there is not inflammation present. So there's a different way of looking at it, and a different way of treating it if it's tendinosis than tendinitis. But you had asked me what are the three top things. I mean, those are the three top things. Use your thumbs less, and certainly don't use them in line with your with the rest of your, and if you could put a hand on top of it to guide it, don't let them wiggle in the wind. And the tendinosis on either side of the wrist from the flexors, and then the neck problems with all the nerves coming off of the cervical spine. You can mess up a lot of stuff, and you can end up having problems in the rest of your arms because those nerves get irritated, and you can get paresthesias that go down your arms, numbness and tingling, and even cause hand disorders that start in the neck or start in the brachial plexus. I hope I've answered your question.
You had mentioned stools. Do you think
Yeah.
that there's a huge difference between the flat stools and the saddle ones, or is there a specific type of seating?
No, I think it's personal choice. It's whatever you feel comfortable in. The idea is to feel comfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, then you're starting out with muscle tension, and muscle tension is our enemy. We don't want muscle tension while we're working. The people who say, I've been doing this for 38 years, I've never had a problem. When you watch them work, they are fluid. They don't look at all tense. They look perfectly relaxed. They change techniques all the time. They sort of dance around the table. That fluidity and that lack of tension makes a big difference. When you start out with tension, you're kind of setting yourself up for injury. We really want to avoid that.
Are you taking a lot of continuing education classes yourself in order to market research? I know you said you did that study, so obviously if there's 30 therapists in a room, you can kind of keep an eye on everybody's posture.
Well, the study was actually by mail. It was a questionnaire that went out to 1,000 people, and over 600 answered, which you need a big number that answer to be able to make big statements about, well, massage therapists get these kinds of injuries. You can't have 20 people answer and make those kinds of assumptions. And when it's over 600 people answer, statistically, you can start to make those kinds of assumptions. I am no longer practicing LMT, and actually my day was LMP, but maybe that was a West Coast thing. I went to school in Seattle. I do keep up on techniques, but I just did a year's worth of research. That research there's medical research, but there's also a lot of research into what therapists are doing. There's also a lot of common sense. It's easier when you are not in it, in a way. It's easier to see things. And it's easier. 30 years I've been dealing with this issue. The first edition came out in 1995. I'm dating myself, but it was the first ever book on the subject. I wrote it because I was injured and I couldn't find a book on the subject. So I've been exposed to a lot of things, and I have did 2 years of research for the second edition. I got an ergonomics degree, which I didn't keep up because I went on and did other things for a while. I've only recently gotten back the rights to Save Your Hands and starting. It's a long story, but I was doing a lot of other things in the meantime. But there's nothing like research. I mean, you read things that are contradictory, and then you find the middle ground, and figure out what is the thing that makes the most sense to tell people. Some of it is based on I took a course on mindfulness-based stress reduction. I took a formal course at a hospital, and then I studied with John Kabat-Zinn, who's the founder of that discipline. I studied with him over a summer, and I'm a big proponent of that because it reduces stress. It's easy to do. It's something you can do at work, something you can do at home before you go to work. I think there's a lot of importance in being relaxed when you're working. That is a proven method. It's been around since the 70s. It's been proven to lower blood pressure, to relax the muscles, to get you in the right mindset to do the work. And mindset is very, very important. Something new that I talk about in the third edition. That was very valuable training for me. It's not specific to massage, but I think a lot of massage therapists would benefit from taking an MBSR class. And it's also something you can teach to your clients. It's pretty easy to teach the basics, and then it's just a matter of them. It's a kind of meditation, but it's not a spiritual meditation. It can lead to a spiritual feeling, but it doesn't have to. It's a technique, and it's something you practice and you get better and better at. It's helped me a lot, and I think would be very helpful for massage therapists. So I now have a new appendix to the book, which is a before work ritual that involves MBSR and to get you ready and in the right mindset for your work. I think it can make a big difference.
Yes, combine that with the let that shit go meditation, and people will be golden. What got you into massage to begin with? What's your origin story? What was your...
Gosh, nobody's asked me that in a long time because it was so long ago. I'm dating myself. I never wanted to do a job where I was sitting in front of a typewriter at the time, or a computer, or in an office. I was a dancer and a musician. I started out my career as doing both, but mostly professionally as a musician. And I was a pianist, but also an orchestral conductor. Being an orchestral conductor is a lot like dancing. You move with the music to indicate the feeling you want to evoke from the musicians. And I loved that aspect of it. I did that for 10 years in New York City. I ended up not making a whole lot of money at it. I ended up changing careers. I stayed in classical music for quite a while, but I don't regret at all having done it. I think some of the best moments of my life were during that. So then my fallback was office work. I knew how to type. I knew how to be a manager. I was looking for a way out of that. And I guess I had always done massage because I had kind of an instinctive feeling about it. I wanted to make people I loved feel better. And so I would just give massages to my family and friends. And so I always did that. So I thought, well, now I see that people are doing that. There are schools for that. I mean, at this time, there were a lot fewer schools, and there was a particularly good one in Seattle where I was living. The Seattle Massage School is a very good school. I decided that, I wanted to do something physical that would feel using my body and helping people. That just seemed a lot better than sitting and typing stuff for investment bankers. I found out that I could get a Pell Grant paid for by the government. And so I enrolled. I thoroughly enjoyed my year in massage school. The only problem is that, like you, I have physical limitations. I am hypermobile. I mean, I can do this kind of thing. I'm very small. I have very small wrists. I'm very small boned. I only weigh 100. I'm 5'6", but I only weigh 118 pounds. I'm just very slight. And I was not in all that great shape. And I didn't know that you needed to be in great physical condition to do massage. And I did something that is very common to do in massage school. I took in, just because I'm a type A personality, or type A++ personality, I always have to be the best. I always have to do more than everybody else. So I decided I wanted to do an externship. So I went to work in a physical therapy clinic. I went from doing 2 to 3 massage exchanges per week, to working 4 days a week where I would do like 5 massages a day. And that sudden increase in the number of massages that I was doing, especially under pressure, because this was a real clinic and the people I worked on expected a professional massage. And I wasn't ready to give a professional massage. I was just a student. So I overdid it. It's too much too soon. And I started having pain. Unfortunately, at the time, schools and instructors were not savvy about pain. So my instructors, I went to an advisor and I went to that instructor and I said, my wrists are starting to hurt. The stronger you'll get and it'll go away. None of that was true. And it didn't go away. And I was one of 3 people in my class of 30. So that's 10% who graduated. I was able to graduate and pass my state boards, but who were not able, too injured to be able to practice afterward. I mean, it took me 3 years of physical therapy and other modalities to not be in pain. I had one of those slow onset, very difficult to treat injuries. This is why I tell people you got to catch it when it's early. When you first feel the symptoms, you got to start making changes. Because once it gets started and once it's been there for a while, it's really, really hard to treat. These kinds of injuries are very hard to treat. Do yourself a favor and just, if it hurts, don't do it. And if it keeps hurting, get some help. There's plenty of help out there. You don't have to self-treat. It's great to ice your hands or put them in paraffin wax or whatever, but that may not really be the right treatment for what you have. And as massage therapists, we're not doctors. We're not even physical therapists who have PhDs in what they do. We don't have enough clinical knowledge to be able to effectively treat ourselves, even though a lot of people like to think that they do, they just don't. It's like somebody asked me the other day something, it tore my rotator cuff, what should I do? I said to them, go to a doctor. I don't know. I didn't have that much training, even though with all the research I've done, I know a lot more about rotator cuff tears and anatomy than the average person, but I'm not a doctor and I can't treat them. And we shouldn't feel like we have to treat ourselves or that there's some shame in seeking treatment from somebody else. Just get some help. I mean, you've invested a lot in your career and it can go away like mine did. I mean, I invested a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of emotion. And I didn't have a career at the end. So that's my origin story. And so I started doing Save Your Hands workshops because I had done some research on musculoskeletal disorders and repetitive stress injuries, as they were called at the time. Then I turned the workshop into a book because I just couldn't find a book on this subject. So that's my origin story.
Very informative, which is exactly what we need in all of our textbooks.
Yeah, so don't be like me. Don't ignore your symptoms until they're so bad that then you can't practice and you spend 3 years in pain, because it was a lot of pain.
Yeah, preventative care is, I always tell my clients, self-care is so much easier than the aftercare. The aftercare is so much to deal with. It's more expensive, and you know what I have to do in order to keep my body functioning. I also know that I don't want to work 4 days a week, seeing 5 clients a day. That's 5 days a week. That's too much. I work 2.5 days a week, and I'm still doing other stuff during the week. That's not massage, that's still work, but hands-on, that's all I can handle. So whenever people post these posts, how many massages do you do in a day? I think to myself, is this a dick measuring contest?
Right, exactly. People are a little too competitive about that kind of stuff. We have nothing to prove. People are different. People can do different things. I mean, there are people who can run a mile in a minute. It's not me. That's okay. I don't have to be the world's greatest runner or the world's greatest whatever. And being me is enough, and being you is enough.
I always say the only place I run is to the store.
I think all this competitive stuff, and there is an element of shame. I talk about this in the book, that There are therapists who will say to you, well, I've been doing it for 25 years. And there's an element that they're trying to shame you. If I can do it for 25 years, what's wrong with you? I think that's really a shame. I think we need to help each other, not shame each other. There's no shame in getting injured. I broke my foot last year. I'm not ashamed of it. It happened. These things happen, and we're all different, and we all have different types of bodies. Some people go into some schools are great at teaching all kinds of injury prevention techniques, and some barely teach it at all, or they call it body mechanics. And body mechanics is not injury prevention. It's one thing that we should try to improve that is only one tactic and by itself does not prevent injury. And body mechanics is not the same as ergonomics, by the way. People confuse the two. It's not the same thing. Ergonomics is designing your workplace to fit you, and body mechanics is changing the way you act to fit the work you're doing. So they're opposites, actually. So there's just a lot of confusion. I don't mean to, when I talk on Facebook or whatever, yes, of course I want people to buy my book. But one of the reasons I want people to buy my book is that they're going to find all the information that I'm talking about. They're going to find that, and a lot of compassion and a lot of be yourself and try to relax and enjoy it. Don't be so competitive or feel ashamed or whatever. They're going to find all that in the book. It's almost 400 pages long, but it's actually easy to read, and there's lots of pictures. It'll give them a guide, and it'll also give them a reference as things come up that you go to the index, you look it up, and you go to that page and you read up on that page, and maybe that's all you need for, that particular day. And I wish I could say that there were 100 books like mine, but there really aren't. I really wish there were, because it's a topic that's worth writing about and worth helping people with. It's my way of trying to help people. I can talk for hours, but it's all in the book.
I have a couple of friends opening up massage schools. I'll have to put them in touch with you because I know that this belongs in schools and this is a foundation of our career. If we do not take care of it, it's not going to last very long mentally and physically. Most of my burnout is up here.
Well, and I mean, I talk about burnout as well. A lot of that has to do with setting boundaries and being good to yourself, which should be part of any career. We shouldn't take crap from, I'm trying to be family friendly. We shouldn't take shit from so many people, including bosses and, clinic managers and people, a lot of people who really don't know what they're talking about. I mean, some do, but a lot don't. I can tell you that there is years and years of research, evidence-based research that has gone into this book. There's nothing you're going to read in this book that isn't proven, that hasn't been proven over and over and over to be true. So it's something you can trust, and hopefully that will help you, especially if you're the type who's afraid to say in front of other people, I'm in pain, or I just don't feel good doing massages or any type of body work. Then you just read a book and then contact me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. Well, Facebook's probably the best place. If you know people who are opening schools, I mean, it's a really good basis to work from. And there are hundreds of schools all over the world who have used Save Your Hands. In fact, later in the day, I have an interview with someone from a very well-known school who I'm going to talk to. They used the book for 20 years. And I want to tell them about the third edition and get them on board with using the third edition, because it's really what's the most up to date.
On board. You're just dropping by to say, hey, thank you.
I hope so. I'm just trying to do my bit.
Yes. Well, you contributed so much to the massage community, and I know it is not easy at all to write a textbook. I mean, not speaking from experience, but I went to school in Louisiana, so of course Susan Salvo's books were everywhere. My teacher was friends with her, and it is not an easy feed. I mean, shit, I can't write a Facebook post, much less a blog post, much less.
Her books are incredible. puts my book to shame. They're so well researched and
Yeah.
so well cited, and she's terrific. As are many other people, Sandy Fritz and Whitney Lowe and Bruce Baltz. I mean, all those big people who are very well known. I mean, they're all terrific.
Writing books, keep creating content, keep helping out the community and educating people, because we're never going to be replaced by robots, y'all. So
no. And I am going to, once I get this out the door, I am going to start working on the courses, and there will be more content that I will create as time goes on. And by the way, I mean, for schools, there is an instructor's guide and there is help with curriculum. We provide lots of help to schools who want to teach using Save Your Hands. I hope you like the cover. It was tough to come up with the same kind of idea as the second edition, but a little different, just to so people would still recognize the book. I think it came out pretty well. I have a good designer.
Eye-catching. I love it. I think it looks great. I'm sure the content's even better. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and being so generous, and just having a conversation about this very important foundational topic of our careers, because without it, we're not going to last very long.
You're very welcome, and you asked wonderful questions, and I'm very pleased to talk to you anytime. I hope that I can continue to be of help to people and get that word across that don't count on one thing to keep you from getting injured. You got to do a lot of different things. That's probably my biggest takeaway for people is it takes a lot more than just body mechanics. It's a lot more complicated than that. But read the book and then it'll become clear.
Read the book, and if you absolutely hate doing a modality, don't fucking do it. There's so many.
Especially if it hurts. There's a little thing in my book that says, if it hurts, don't do it. No, it shouldn't hurt.
And apart from your website and your Facebook group, is there anywhere else that people can connect with you with?
I will be starting a blog again. Once I get this out the door and I have a little bit of time to myself, I will be starting a blog. And I will be active in the Save Your Hands Facebook group. If you buy the book, there's a little QR code in the back to join the group. There's my contact form on the website. Send me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's usually 1 to 3 days. I stay pretty much on top of these things. If there are any clinics or schools or spas that are listening, I'm going to try to get into consulting with spas. Spas are one of the major employers of massage therapists. You said you work for a spa.
Yeah, I work for a corporate hotel spa, not a chain, but it is very important for our team that we take care of ourselves, because we're all switching shifts and kind of moving clients around if we need to make sure that we're working on the right type of people. So I'm pretty lucky with that.
So I have a whole consulting program for spas to help them keep their therapists healthy and reduce turnover and make happy therapists who give great treatments. And nobody gives a good treatment when they're not feeling well because they're doing too much massage. Just drop me a line and happy to talk to anybody.
Thank you, Lauriann. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's really been a pleasure.